Hello, I'm Andrew Wrigley, and this is our fourth segment in the series How to Make a Shoe by Hand. This segment is the closing of the upper. So the first step in closing of the upper is to glue the pieces of upper leather together. When we cut our leather out, we did it in a two-dimensional fashion with our pattern, but when we created the pattern on the last, it was in 3 dimensions. So if I glue it together in 2 dimensions, it will approximately work, but the fit will really be better if the leather is in approximately the correct shape when it's glued together in anticipation of stitching on the last. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put all the pieces together on the last, glue them in place, and then punch out our holes with an awl to do the stitching. So here we have our last, and like I was saying before, you need to glue the pieces of leather together to hold them together while you're sewing them. And some shoemakers prefer to use rubber cement, which has the advantage of you can rub the rubber cement off, leaving no trace if there's a problem. It has the disadvantage of getting into the brogue holes and being difficult to clean out of there. I prefer to use simple white glue. This is a bookbinding glue, but you can use regular Elmer's white glue, wood glue, works fine. And I put it on my finger and apply it on the back, and then it's a very neat application, and then I can glue it that way. But you notice I have this guideline here, and that's where it comes in very handy for registering the pattern. But the problem is this guideline doesn't seem to match when I put them together in 2 dimensions, but if I put them together 3-dimensionally on the last, then it matches. And that's because we used the tape method of pattern making, where we drew the pattern right on the last, and for optimal fit it should be assembled on the last. Now, not everyone does it that way. A lot of shoemakers will assemble it in 2 dimensions and then just stretch it to fit over the last. But they might be using chrome tanned leather, which has a natural elasticity to it. It's much more elastic than vegetable tan. Vegetable tan leather is more durable and harder, but it stretches less, so it can be a little bit of a challenge. But if you wet the leather, it'll give it up a little bit more and it'll stretch. So I'm going to go to the next step and show you how to do that. Alright, I've placed the leather on the last, and to temporarily hold it in place, I put a little bit of masking tape on to hold it. And as you can see, it matches up very nicely with the piece of tape I left on there as a guide, so we know that we're on track. And if it's not absolutely perfect, it will affect your lasting in the future, but it does have a little bit of leeway to stretch, and you know, you can make it work, but you should try to get it just right. So I'm going to take some of this glue here, put it on my finger, and spread it on the leather very gently. Careful not to put too much on. Okay, now the other side. Alright, now it's glued on, and you'll see there's a little space right there that didn't get any glue. That's going to happen. So just take, this is a palette knife that you can get at an art store. It can be very handy in little situations where you have to slip some glue under a seam. So you just kind of go like that and then get the glue under there without making a mess. There we go. And then glue the toe on. And the glue will hold it in place while you punch your holes. So, you can hang the upper off of the side of a plank, put leather behind it, and you have to punch out all the stitching holes. You can leave a space of slightly more than a millimeter, about a millimeter, in between each hole. And it has a very nice look to it. It looks different from machine stitching. And it does take a long time, but it doesn't take forever. You'll get it done, and you'll appreciate your shoe that much more. So here we go. So I'm going to punch all these holes out, and then we'll go to the next step, which is how to sew. So I'll move on to that. Alright, well, all of the holes have been punched out neatly, and we're ready to begin stitching. Here's what the inside looks like. So I have my needle and thread. This is 1 ounce nylon that you can get from McPherson's, and you should always choose as close as possible a color and then slightly lighter than the leather, because it'll take the wax and shoe polish nicely and create a good effect. If you choose the same color or darker, it looks kind of undesirable. But anyway, so I'm going to start. We're going to do what's called a running stitch, where the thread goes in and out, leaving a series of dashes as it skips each, as it goes in and out. It kind of leaves a mark that looks like a dotted line, and then when we get to the end, we'll turn around and come back, which will fill in those fill in the dotted line, making it a solid line of stitching. So it's actually stitched twice, two runs. And then we'll do another line of stitching for the second row, but we'll just do one. it will leave that one as a dotted line for decorative effect. So you start out, you have to knot the thread from the inside, of course. Tie a square knot. And try to be careful in your work so you don't tangle your thread or make any mistakes in which hole you put it in. And this will be the most time-consuming part of the project. You will get faster at it with practice, but it will take a long time. And eventually having a leather sewing machine would be a nice thing. But the hand-sewn stitching looks quite beautiful. I might let this one show off the dotted line. I might do that. I've been thinking of doing that for a pair of shoes. It does have the second row, but backing it up so it's not really an issue of strength. Although I think it would be stronger to come back and fill them in. Alright, well, that's the beginning of it, and I will finish this up and show you the results many hours from now. Many hours from now. Okay. Sometimes when you're sewing, the needle has trouble getting through, and you can use a pair of needle nose pliers to pull the needle. Here's what the inside looks like. Generally, if you've done a good job punching the holes, you can just refresh them a little bit and the needle will go through. But alright, well, now all the stitching is completed. Just to show you, it didn't take that long. And for this project shoe, I went with the running stitch, allowing the gap to show, so it has a dotted line stitch for decorative effect. I've never done that before. Usually I do it where I have an unbroken line on the top and then a dotted line on the bottom. So this row is done twice and this one once. For this one I wanted to emphasize all the hand stitching, so 2 dotted lines. If you were just doing a single row of stitching on a shoe that had no broguing, I would recommend going back and doing a double line. But so our next step will be sewing in the lining and making the top bead, and then we will be ready for making the insole and lasting the upper and making the shoe. So this has been Andrew Wrigley. Keep clicking and skiving, and I hope this has been some help to you. We're on our way now, proceeding to the next step. So happy shoemaking.